You know that place where life felt like an episode of the OC? That's where I grew up, fell in love for the first time, and thought everything would work out. That place was Santa Monica. Was. Because what I found here now, my God, looks more like the set of an apocalyptic movie. You walk down the streets and think, wait, where is everyone? Did they run away? And maybe they really did. For those who don't know, I spent my teenage years skateboarding, watching street performers on 3rd Street, and eating crepes in the late afternoon. It was like the perfect combo of beach, culture, and safety. And now you're more likely to see a fentanyl zombie than a guitar performance at sunset. And no, I'm not exaggerating. I mean, maybe just a little. But honestly, if I don't add a bit of humor to this, I'll end up crying. Because the truth is, the city I loved has turned into a maze of empty buildings, insecurity, and silence. And the worst part is, I only believed it when I saw it with my own eyes. Because up until then, it just sounded like YouTubers exaggerating for views. But no, man. It's bad. It's really bad. So, in this video, I'm going to take you for a walk with me. Not as a tourist, but as someone who has actually lived here. I'm going to show you what's changed. I'll talk to the people who still have the courage to keep their shops open and let you draw your own conclusions. And look, get ready, because the Santa Monica of 2025 has nothing to do with that California paradise you watched in your teenage years. The showcase of decline. If you've ever heard of Santa Monica, you've definitely heard of the 3rd Street Promenade. It used to be the favorite street where people would walk hand in hand, stop to watch card tricks, buy $15 gourmet milkshakes, and now it looks like a mall where everyone has just vanished. Seriously. You can count on one hand the number of stores that are still open, and you'd still have fingers left to give a sarcastic thumbs up. 40% of the businesses here have closed. 40. Imagine a street where 4 out of every 10 storefronts are empty, dirty, or have that hopeful little sign. For rent. For rent. For what exactly? For a scare. And you know what's even weirder? I clearly remember coming here on weekends and not being able to walk without tripping over street performers, musicians, tourists, clowns, or skateboarding dogs. Today, you can walk an entire block and all you see is a coughing pigeon and an old man yelling at the wind. On the right side, the restaurant that was the hotspot back in the 2000s, closed. On the left, my old bank, an HSBC. Now, it only opens if you're shooting a horror video. A little further ahead, there's a Hollister. Yeah, the one with the dark store and that surfer cologne smell. It's gone too. And the saddest part is that this has become normal. No one is surprised by closed storefronts anymore. Everything's become so acceptable that it feels like the whole city has gone into whatever mode. I swear, there was a moment when I asked myself, am I really in Santa Monica? Or did I accidentally walk into an urban bankruptcy simulator in GTA? Two. Unreal prices and impossible business. Have you ever tried to open a business with rent at $30,000 a month? No. Then let me paint the picture for you. Imagine a space of 140 square meters, which is about the size of a large apartment. Do you know how much they ask for? $30,000 a month. And that's just the rent. Now add it up. Another $30,000 in fixed costs, employees, inventory, electricity, and California's just for existing tax. $60,000 a month. That's how much profit you need to make just to break even. And you thought the mall kiosk in your city was expensive? If you're not Apple, Nike, or a bored millionaire who thinks playing shop is the new therapy, forget it, there's no way to survive here. Or better yet, you end up turning your bills into toilet paper. Because that's the only use they have left. And the craziest part, there are huge buildings that have been empty for years, but no one lowers the rent. Do you know why? Because if the owner lowers the price, the value of the building plummets. And that affects the value of all the other properties around it. In other words, it's better to keep everything closed and expensive than open and viable. It's like that guy who'd rather stay alone and say no one is good enough, just so he doesn't have to admit he needs to change his attitude. And that's the result you see. Closed stores, empty sidewalks, and a silence that, honestly, is scarier than two guys on a motorcycle coming toward you. Santa Monica turned into a monologue of "for least" signs, and the audience abandoned the theater. Number 3, the legacy of the pandemic and the post-COVID crisis. Remember when everyone used to say, "Oh, it'll just be a few weeks, soon everything will go back to normal"? Well, in Santa Monica, normal never came back. In fact, he packed up, took an Uber and went to live in another state. During the pandemic, dozens of stores were forced to close their doors. Many even tried to come back later, with courage in their hearts and hand sanitizer at the ready. But what did they find? Sky-high rent, foot traffic at rock bottom, and a city that no longer knew if it was a tourist destination or the set of a post-apocalyptic TV show. Want an example? Gap, which used to occupy an entire building right in the heart of 3rd Street, just up and left. They left everything behind, disappeared. And the building is still there, abandoned, taking up 4 floors of silence. But the final blow didn't just come from the virus. It came from looting, riots, vandalism, and the complete neglect after the crisis. Many businesses were smashed, looted, and never got back on their feet. And I get it. Imagine spending years building a restaurant, investing every penny, surviving the pandemic, and then, at your first reopening, someone smashes your storefront and takes everything. Who has the mental strength to try again after that? Santa Monica turned into a kind of valley of broken dreams, where even the big brands, the ones we thought would never fall, asked to leave. I'm going to make you give up. Ask to leave, ask to leave, ask to leave, ask to leave, or else you're going to get kicked out the hard way. By the way, quick pause. You know that friend of yours who still thinks California is a dream? Send this video to them right now, trust me. It's better than letting them dive headfirst into this orange-filtered nightmare. And that's not even mentioning the drugs and crime yet. And tell me in the comments, is your city turning into a post-apocalyptic movie too, or is it just mine that's on GTA hard mode? 4. The fallacy of safety and the invisible fear. Now answer me honestly. What exactly is a public safety kiosk? Because I grew up here, lived in this city for years, and to this day I still can't say exactly what that thing does. It almost looks like a government phone booth, except without a phone and without the government. And I'm not joking. There's a little police kiosk right there, in front of the store that got looted. The same store, the same corner. But guess what? Nobody did anything. They called the police at 2 in the morning. They showed up at 4, 2 hours later. Plenty of time for the thief to take the goods, set up an online store, and even offer free shipping. The truth is, the system is broken. There are police, but no action. There are cameras, but no consequences. There's fear, but nobody wants to speak up. You know what shocked me the most? I talked to several store owners, people who are there every day opening their doors, scared and praying nothing goes wrong. They all said the same thing: I don't want to talk on video, I'm afraid of being canceled. Yes, that's right. People are afraid to talk about the city's decline and get canceled. Canceled for saying they don't feel safe. Canceled for admitting that paradise has turned into an expensive nightmare. So, my friend, when even fear is silent, it's because the city has already gone too far. 5. The epidemic of homelessness. Can you imagine living in a place where there are 117 homeless people per square mile? Yeah, if it were celebrities per square meter, the city would be at the top of Forbes. But it's people living in tents, with torn blankets and shopping carts. And it's not just about the numbers, okay? It's the visual impact, the emotional, the existential. Because you walk through one of the most beautiful neighborhoods in the United States, with a movie-worthy sunset, perfect weather, palm trees lined up, and right next to you, there's an improvised tent with someone in withdrawal screaming at the air. And then comes the most surreal detail of all, the government's solution. California has already spent $4 billion since 2019 trying to solve the problem. And do you know what they did here in Santa Monica? They tore down the parking lot to build public housing. Pretty cool, right? At least until you find out that each unit is going to cost $1 million. Seriously, $1 million per unit. Want some context? With that amount, you could buy an apartment in the same neighborhood. Or you could get one for free if you're homeless. It's a complete irony package. Living on the street, you get an apartment, work, pay taxes, bust your butt every month. Good luck competing with that. And you know what's even scarier? Even with all this investment, the number of homeless people just keeps growing. It's like they threw money into a hole, literally, because the hole is still there and it's surrounded by tents. 6. The reality of crime and surreal laws. If I told you that here in Santa Monica you can steal up to $949 and just walk away like nothing happened, you'd think I was joking, right? But it's not. This is Proposition 47, a legal marvel passed in 2014 that says the following: if you steal less than $950, relax, it's just a misdemeanor. The result? It's like Black Friday every day, except without going through the checkout. There are videos of people walking into pharmacies, grabbing perfume, cosmetics, electronics, and leaving as if they paid for it, smiling like they just swiped their card. And what does the security guard do? Nothing. You can't touch it. By the time the police arrive, it's already over. The person's long gone. And what did that lead to? A market for repeat thefts. The guy steals in the morning, gets released in the afternoon, and by night he's selling the stuff on Craigslist. And you, as a store owner, do you report it? For what? The police say, no cameras, no evidence. Then it's not even worth filing a report. And even when there are cameras, the government system doesn't do anything. It's like those free antivirus programs that just warn you your computer is at risk. But they don't actually do anything to help. Add to that a train line that connects Skid Row directly to Santa Monica. Yes, that exists, making it easy for people to go back and forth in this urban cycle of desperation. Back and forth, with no oversight, no control, no effective public policy. The city has become a game board, and the feeling of impunity is like a die that always lands on the same number: insecurity. 7. Drugs, fentanyl, and mental health. You've probably heard of fentanyl, right? That super strong synthetic drug, 50 times more potent than heroin. Well, Santa Monica has become one of the biggest overdose hotspots in Los Angeles County. Congratulations, right? And this is directly connected to the situation of the homeless, because according to data, 75% of people experiencing homelessness have substance abuse problems. 75%. Now, add that to another statistic. 78% also have mental disorders. In other words, The city has become a minefield of invisible suffering, but invisible only to those who don't live here. For those walking the streets, the suffering is right there, plain as day. There are people talking to themselves and to streetlights. There are people sleeping in front of designer stores. There are people screaming in the middle of the street, not knowing if they're seeing a demon or just another cloudy day. And worst of all, there aren't enough resources to take care of it. The little that does exist is expensive, bureaucratic, and slow. So what's left? The streets, fentanyl, crisis. And for anyone who thinks that's an exaggeration, it's worth remembering, here in Santa Monica, you're more likely to see someone having a breakdown on the street than someone smiling in a restaurant. What was supposed to be a postcard image of California has turned into a desperate warning of what happens when public health fails, politics pretends, and society gets used to it. Does that remind you of anything? 8. The chaos of the riots and the wound that never healed. If the pandemic was a punch to the gut, the 2020 riots were the knockout. The city was already on its knees, trying to breathe through a mask, count every penny, relearn how to live. And then came the widespread destruction. Stores broken into, windows shattered, cash registers looted, dreams destroyed. Many businesses that had barely managed to survive up to that point simply never reopened. Some because they lost everything, others because they lost hope. And this isn't drama, it's the testimony of some residents. There were residents who locked up their trash with a padlock because the homeless started breaking into even the dumpsters. People living in upscale neighborhoods saying, "My garage was broken into. My car was broken into, my daughter doesn't go out alone anymore, not even to the park." And the craziest part, people are ashamed to say this in public. Yes, ashamed to complain. Because they're afraid of seeming insensitive, or worse, being canceled for telling the truth. But how can you hide the fact that the city has changed, and not for the better? Anyone who lived here in the 90s and 2000s remembers, Santa Monica was peaceful, prosperous, charming. Today, it's a city in disguised mourning, a mix of nostalgia, frustration, and fear of what's coming next. And even though there are still pockets of beauty, the shine just isn't the same. The glamour has turned into cracked makeup. The pandemic is over, but the trauma remains. 9. Is it still worth living here? So, is it worth living here? If you're a millionaire, have private security, a bulletproof car, and an unconditional love for Instagrammable sunsets, maybe. Now, if you're just a regular person who likes to walk down the street without being approached by someone yelling with a flip-flop in hand, think twice, because Santa Monica is still beautiful. Yes, the sea still sparkles, the sky still has that orange hue that looks like it was edited in Lightroom. But what's the point of so many filters if the city has lost its soul? You know what's even crazier? I love this place, truly. This is where I grew up, where I lived through beautiful times, and that's exactly why seeing all of this hurts. It hurts to walk down a street that used to be full of life and now looks like an abandoned set from The Last of Us. It hurts to see residents afraid to go out at night. It hurts to see tourists leaving before sunset because they didn't feel safe. And the saddest part, we get used to it. The city cries out and no one listens. The stores close and we just look the other way. People disappear and we pretend it's just another cycle. But it's not. It's a city in silent collapse, a paradise that's become a warning sign. And if no one speaks up, we start to see it as normal. So, think about it with me. Santa Monica is still amazing, but it needs more than just compliments. It needs change, courage, and people who aren't afraid to say, "This isn't right." So, what about you? Would you still have the courage to live here, or are you already looking for a one-way ticket somewhere else? Leave a comment, Santa Monica, just so I know you made it to the end. Oh, and don't leave without checking out this other video on the channel about another California city that's also going under. Spoiler, the situation there is even worse. Thanks so much for watching, and see you next time for another shocking reality.